RPGaDay 2018, day 4. And today's question is your most memorable NPC. So for the people I've got watching this who don't know what an NPC is, you have, in role-playing games, you have player characters, which is the character that the player plays. That's a deep shock. And you have non-player characters, and those are the people that the player characters interact with. So they're generally the ones that are played by the game master, or the person running the game. So yeah, I've been running games for the last couple of years, and I've been scratching my head thinking about who was the most memorable non-player character that my players bumped into. And I have, I think, 2 of them, neither of whom came back all that often. Both of them tended to arrive and then leave, and they were both in the last long game that I ran, which was a Call of Cthulhu game set in London in the 1920s. And the first one was Mikey the Cat. So part of the game was set in Croydon, where I live, and I decided that while the locations that were picked in the game were okay in the thing I was running, I decided I wanted to have them a bit closer to home. So I set one of the locations at the end of my road, basically. There was a horrible murder which happened round the corner from my mate Steve's, which also happened to be a house that my brother once lived in. I think the rest of the locations I left as is. So my characters went into the back garden of this place, tried to sneak in to find out what was going on, because they knew there was something untoward happening. They were sneaking through the back garden, and as they were sneaking through the back garden, they noticed there were a lot of cats in the back garden, which was not terribly unusual, but there were more than you'd expect to find. And then a cat came out from the bushes, and it looked at them. And I seem to remember it was right at the end of a session, and one of the characters, I think, bent down to scratch the cat. Ken did, and the cat looked to him and said, "You shouldn't be here." And the reaction from the players, bearing in mind that they'd fought against shadow creatures, they'd found some really grisly remains, they'd come across some really nasty stuff in their time. This, I think, in the whole campaign, was the thing that freaked them the most, was a talking cat. It was a lot of fun, and the next session, I think it was Ken himself who had bent down and scratched the cat and was quite friendly with the cat and had a long conversation with the cat. Ended up being devoured by a herd of, is herd the right word? A herd of around 100 cats, all biting and scratching. It was not a good way to go. Yeah, so that was probably the most memorable. The second one was from the same campaign, and my players ended up with their characters in Clerkenwell, at a church, the name of which escapes me at the moment, but it is a proper church in Clerkenwell. And there were some very, very rum goings on involving one of the vicars there. And there was a housekeeper in the vicarage, Mrs. Stanhope. Mrs. Stanhope had been mind controlled on multiple occasions and was showing some slightly strange signs of it. But she just came across as a normal middle-aged lady. She made them tea, she brought in stuff, she did all that kind of stuff. And the characters got to roll to see if they saw anything unusual. And one of them did. And I pointed out that Mrs. Stanhope never blinked. Whenever they watched her, she never blinked. And that again was really quite freaky. And Mrs. Stanhope didn't play a huge part, but they were really freaked out by the fact that, is she blinking? No, she's still not blinking. That was really good fun and really memorable. So yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot of people that the players or the player characters bump into, but I think those were two of the ones which were the most well remembered by my players, and definitely sparked off the biggest stories that keep coming around when we talk to people, to the point where, like I say, Mrs. Stanhope in 1926 in the game we were playing, she was a middle-aged lady, and my brother and Dave are currently playing a Leagues of Adventure game that I'm running, which is set in 1895, also in London, and we needed a housekeeper for the flat where the detective and the surrogate Mr. Watson, Dr. Watson, lived. And Dave said, "Could we make it a young Miss Stanhope?" So yeah, that was fun. Yeah, so that's day. Where are we? Day 4. So day 5, I'll come back with tomorrow.